Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the very first in the series of podcasts, The Noise, Kev the Noise Davis podcasts for 2024. It's called Carts to Cars, and I think throughout the series you'll see why. And I'm very pleased to introduce our very first guest for episode number 1. Please welcome Sam and Carlo Moyola. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Great to have you on my very first show. I'm a bit excited, and I'm sure you'll go easy on me because we've got a really interesting story. The reason this particular story is very interesting is when we say carts to cars, Carlo has gone cars, carts, cars, cars. And we'll explain throughout this 30-minute episode exactly how that's gone. So, Sam, I'm going to get you to explain first of all. You got Carlo into cars, and it was mod lights. So, give us a rundown first of all on how that progressed. You know, what did you get into first?
Well, basically, we went into mod lights. We took the kids to Archerfield one day, and they'd never been. Carlo just turned 16, and we were watching these little mighty boys going around, and I said to him, "How would you like to drive one of these?"
Yeah.
And he said, "I'd love to." I said, "No worries." So we looked around for a car, and our very first car was $4,500.
How old was he at the time?
16.
You were 16, right? Okay.
So
So
never
it was a bit green behind the ears. It was like put him in a race car.
Pretty much.
Pretty exciting stuff. Were you a little bit nervous jumping in the car first time?
Yeah, I didn't even have my learner's permit at the time.
So you're not really driven yet.
No, didn't even drive a car.
So we call this in the deep end.
Yes.
So, all right. So tell us what was it like getting in the car? What did you do? How did you go?
Yeah, no, very nerve-wracking. As I said, didn't have a car license, so I had no idea what I was doing. And so we started practicing at a local family friend's farm, and just started building up confidence from there before we hit the track.
Fanging around on the paddock before you
Well,
put it on the
it was actually
track.
our farm.
Yeah, right. Okay. So that was fun. Though when you got into it, obviously you had to basically create a team from nothing. So you bought a car. You got to learn how to spanner it.
Didn't even know what a spanner was, pretty much.
Yeah, right. So you really did have to learn the whole team scenario of a race team on dirt, right from scratch. Was that advice coming from other teams? How did you get so far there? What did you do?
So basically, we did walk around the pits. We had a chat to quite a few drivers. We had a chat to the president. Everyone was so welcoming. As soon as we bought that car, there were so many people willing to help, which was fantastic. Yeah. And Carlo's first race was at Archerfield, and he did a 46 seconds
lap.
So it was a bit natural.
At 40 kilometres an hour, going by the mile laps.
Right.
And then the president at the time said, after a couple of race meet, he was getting better and better.
Yeah.
He said, "We're going to go out on a practice day." He booked Archerfield, took Carlo with his daughter, who was driving, she was quite good.
Yeah.
And he said, "What you do is just sit on her ass and go.
Yeah.
Keep up with her."
Yeah.
And so they did quite a few laps,
Yeah.
and he brought him into what they classed as a competitive time, which he brought from 46 seconds down to 19.
Yeah, because from what I see from sprint cars and that oval racing, it's all about being able to control the power and basically turn one way, but have drive going the other. So you've got to get it under drive, but be steering and almost like out of control, but going fast around a corner. So it's fast and it looks out of control, but it's actually in control. So you had to learn how to do that.
Yeah, it's controlled out of control.
Yeah, and you got good at it.
Yeah.
So how did you go in the model? How did career of 3 years?
3 years.
How did you go in it? What did you get up to?
Well, we definitely had a lot of crashes.
Yeah.
A lot of crashes. No, but just the experience of it, trying to get, my footing was, very learning and educational. Yeah. That's probably the best way to say it, educational.
Wins and, sort of what the performance is like in the duration of your time in the actual sport itself.
Our very first season, we made, I think, top 7 in Queensland out of 60-something mod lights.
Right.
At the time.
Because we were consistent.
Yeah.
Consistently last, but we finished every race.
Yeah.
But the problem is you've got to finish to win.
Yeah.
A lot of cars went out there, but not many finished.
Yeah,
we finished 29 races out of 31 for that season, which brought our points right up to 7th in Queensland. But it was too much for him. Experience-wise, throwing him in the deep end. Was it wrong? Yes. Did we have a blast? Bloody oath we did.
All right, so the decision at some point was made, go-karts, where you're going to go. So this is where the show is going to be going most of this most of these series where you're going to karts to cars. So we've gone from a car to a go-kart. So tell us how that how it came about. What
Basically,
happened?
I've got two other daughters.
Yep.
And they wanted a race as well. The only way we could do it was sell the mod light and buy 3 karts. We got 3 cheap karts. I think one of Carlo's karts was $200 without the engine, obviously. And we built it up and put it on the track. And I had 3 go-karts running. And at one stage, I had 9 go-karts in the room at any one time. Basically, mostly Tony karts, because being Italian, Tony karts. I keep to that theme. And in his very first race, I still remember to this day, it was the Winter Series. Carlo got out there. We actually had a team of 3 called the Triple C, which was Carlo, Corey, and...
At which track?
Maribor.
Right, yeah.
Carlo, Corey, and Connor.
Yeah.
So it was Triple C racing. Carlo gets on the track for the very first time and went 4 wide on the corner of turn 3 and overtook everyone.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, all I could hear was this, who's this mad guy going around the outside, because no one knew who we were or where we come from. And we go and do this. And I think we finished that series in 3rd
Yeah, it was
or
3rd
2nd.
or 4th.
And that would be because of the experience he got from the Model I, made him suddenly very fast in the go-kart. Which is where a lot of these trophies came from, I guess, because you obviously found success in karting where you were used to going fast around corners, fast around an oval. The kart getting loose wasn't going to worry you because you were used to that.
Yeah.
But it meant you were very competitive immediately against seasoned campaigners,
Well,
I guess.
back then it was a standard class, so weight was a major issue. There was no weight discrepancy in the class. It was from light to heavy, that was it. So Carlo being 40 kilos most overweight compared to most of the other drivers, we were still in the top 5, generally in the top 5 all the time.
Yeah.
So carrying that 40 kilos, there was a lot, I mean, I got a lot of experience from obviously the mod light to bring into the go-karts, but there was, again, a lot of people willing to help us in the go-kart, which was fantastic. Again, it was a great crowd. Maryborough had, 80 to 100 karts for a club meeting back in the day.
Yeah.
It was a monster show.
Yeah, all right.
And it was fantastic.
So the Mod Light, reasonably inexpensive. You got on the cheap in that one.
Well, I sold it
Yeah.
to a bloke who offered me more money than I paid for it.
Right. So jumping into karts, did you find that more expensive? Because obviously you were competitive. There's a few trophies on the table here, and there's a few in the box down there. So clearly, if in the karting world, generally people that win trophies can often say, we spent a lot of money in karting. Did it cost you a lot of money per race meeting, for a season, per kart? Was it inexpensive? Was it relatively expensive? What would you say it was?
I would say it's in the medium range, only because I had 3 go-karts. So that's 3 engines, 6 engines, 9 engines. I had a lot of builders, different type of builders. Shane Manning was a builder for me. He did some brilliant engines for Carlo. Actually, probably too good in what he liked.
I think he's got about 20 at home, but keep that a secret. I've seen him on the shelf. No one's allowed to know. So Shane did some of your engines. All 125s?
No, 100s.
Oh, so they're all KT100s. Yeah, KT100s.
Yeah.
2 strokes and just push starts.
Yep.
If you stop, you're out.
Yep.
So that's another thing where people in karting, they often say that the KA2, I think, in KA series now, that brings about good driving, because if you stop, if you crash, if you go into somebody, get off the grass and it stops, you're out.
Yeah.
So you really need to learn to drive, not to crash and bingo, because you're out if you do. You can't just, like in KA world, restart it and away you go again, and try and get a few places back. In these things, you stop, you're done, out.
Pretty much.
So that brings about good driving. So obviously it brought about good driving in you, because you've won a few. So what were the highlights of the karting wins that you got, and where were the best places that you raced, and what did you like about it most?
So with karting, we actually travelled a lot more. We did a lot more travelling. So we did as far as Bordertown in South Australia, as high as Darwin in Northern Territory.
Wow. Is that for big events or was that for club rounds?
No,
because I know
big events.
Manning, they go to the state championships down in Melbourne, everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's really big events. So give us a run. Where were those other tracks?
We did Maryborough before they changed the surface when it was granite based, and then we went. Obviously, when it was clay based, we did Nudgee at McDougan Complex.
Another one you mean,
Yep. We also did Tamworth and...
Tamworth.
Was there one at Gladstone? I've seen the track at
No,
Gladstone.
we didn't do Gladstone at the time.
Was Gladstone at Bundaberg?
And we didn't do Bundaberg either at the time.
Bundaberg wasn't running at that time.
Right, okay, yeah. So you travelled lots
Yeah.
with the go-kart.
Oh, air.
Yeah, we did air.
Air as well.
with Brandon.
Crikey, you've done
Yeah,
some
Brandon.
miles.
Lockyer Valley at the time.
Yeah. And how many successes would you say you've had in the go-kart racing?
Probably a couple of handfuls.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we were always it always elude us, the Australian titles and stuff like that. We just didn't have enough. Or Carlo thought he was smart when I say to him, he's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm going to say.
Don't touch
Because
it.
I said, whatever you do, don't touch the card. I've got to do something. So I went to the toilet, dropped a leak, come back. He already had the card out. Once you got the card out, we're not allowed to touch it.
Yeah, okay.
So he takes off, and the spark plug. He was in 10th, roughly.
Yeah.
2 or 3 laps into it. Pop goes the spark plug. He goes into the middle. He looks at me and he goes, and I went,
So tell me,
you do.
go-kart racing, the circuit races that you would, how much technical side of it was there for setting a kart up? Because you go to a bitumen track now and they're changing toe in, toe out,
Yeah.
tyre pressures, or you name it, making it loose, loosening the seat,
Exactly
tightening the
the same.
rear end, tightening the front end, camber, all sorts. Did you have to regularly do those changes to make it work at a particular track?
I find a lot of people do too much too quick between races.
Yeah.
Instead of changing 1 or 2 or 3 things, they go and change the whole style of the karts. And it ends up totally different.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to chase what you got, you know, especially if you do one good one. If you're doing one good one, why change it? Just maybe pressures because they put a bit more water down or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
But
Simple
generally,
little
I don't change too much. Learning, I got a lot of background again from Shane was awesome, and Hancock.
Yeah.
Blake Hancock, which was a former Australian one as well. And you know, without them guys,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have learned what I did.
So as the surface changed, did you have to change your style of driving?
Yeah,
In
also had
certain
to learn
gears?
how to tune.
Yeah, so tune. Yeah, so, yeah, you would have to tune those.
Yeah,
That would be
that was
that'd
a-
be
that was a
thing.
big
So
change.
learning to tune the kart, learning to drive in when it's slick at the start.
Yeah.
It grips up during the racing evening, I guess, as it'll
Yeah,
faster
yeah.
and faster as the rubber goes down. Do you have to change your style and then convert that information you've got back to Sam to tweak things to then go out and be faster in the next heat?
A lot of the times it was actually tricky because I didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
Right.
A lot of the times.
So you were quite
So,
green behind the ears and just.
but in
so he was
saying-
one of those typical get in it, send it, and have bloody good fun.
Yeah, a cold trickle doesn't know shit about nothing, right?
Yeah, just hold flat,
I watch,
turn left, isn't it?
continuously watch.
Right, so you knew what you could do to make him faster and you're kind of telling him what to do and hoping that he can transfer that knowledge into some kind of action on circuit and make him
He
faster.
used to tell me a lot, but I never listened.
Typical father son.
He's a typical race driver, isn't he?
Yeah. So,
don't tell me,
look,
I'm all right.
Our best race, and I'll never forget it, is Tamworth.
Yeah.
He started out of the 20th in the feature. It was for the New South Wales title. I grabbed him. They had a blackout.
Yeah.
So there was a chance to actually talk to him before the feature. I grabbed him and I said, if you're going to listen to me tonight. I said, you're going to stay 4 karts wide.
Yeah.
Don't go where they are. Go 4 karts wide. I promise you, you'll be in the top 5. And I swore by it. Well, the green light drops. Where is he? On the bottom with the rest of them. And I just shook my head as he passed. He must have seen me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he stepped out. And within 2 laps, he got them all and was fighting 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Were fighting for 18 laps. He then wheel standed out of turn 2. He had to touch his brakes before he hit the wall, which very rare a kart will wheel stand.
Yeah.
He touched the brakes. He got his momentum back, caught him again with 2 laps to go, and they were battling again. And it was, even though he got 5th and there were 3 side by side, it's the memory that's going to last.
Yeah,
I don't care even if you won an Australian title. That one there was just.
So if I was to ask you, what did you prefer, mod lights or go-karts? So in the first half of this show, we've gone cars to karts. Which was more enjoyable for you, the mod lights or the go-kart racing?
Go-karts.
You preferred the go-karts.
Yeah,
You had fun
100%
in
the
it.
go-karts.
If you could, would you go, after you say finish with what we're going to talk about in a bit, would you go back to go-karts? Were they that much fun?
Not that much fun.
No, right, okay. I'm sure there are people that I'm going to interview in this series who will say, damn right, and they're back in go-karting now after having been out of it for 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that
Everybody's
you
different.
never get it out of your system. It's one of those, you still get an adrenaline rush from putting a helmet and suit on, jumping in a go-kart, being 2 inches off the ground and fanging it around whatever surface. It's still an adrenaline rush, and
Yeah.
it's a scream. Now, second half of the show, we're going to move on definitely from karts to cars. So keep watching, because right now we're going to go from go-karts and we go into a Formula 500. Now, I know a little bit about Formula 500s because I've had a lot of motorbikes in my time, and I've had R1s and ZX6Rs, and I've had them all. And a 600cc motorbike engine is no slow engine. It's a rocket. You put it in a car, and it's a beast. So you moved on from go-kart racing into Formula 500, correct?
Yes.
How much fun first before he gets the word in, because he's ready to go. He's coiled up, ready to go. How much fun was that bad boy?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're glad you went from karts to cars.
Yeah.
That was the dream.
Instant power.
Yeah.
More power than I could ever imagine under the foot at the time, and again, like, still being very young.
Same kind of style though, but having to be really careful with it because it's like so much faster and so much more power. You put your foot down, and these things, they just take off, don't they?
Yeah, you got to be like very careful about your steering and all sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's more slight and smooth.
Yeah.
No matter how small or anything like that. Yeah. You just end up.
So you're happy to be in it. How did you get him into it? Tell me, how does somebody watching this show go from a go-kart to a Formula 500? I know a few people that have done it, but I've never heard or been told the story on how it can be done. And that's what people want to watch the show for. You know, you've gone from cars to karts.
Yeah.
Now you're going from karts to cars. How does it happen?
Well, that's why we went to karts. He excelled.
Yeah.
And that's what progressed us to the next stage of the Formula 500s. But again, because we did the Darwin race, a bloke from Darwin rang me up and said, am I willing to sell the go-karts? And I said, there's a price for everything. And he offered me a phenomenal amount of money for everything. And I mean, when I say everything, every nut and bolt.
Yeah.
It went on pallets.
The
and
whole
everything.
lot,
The
right.
whole lot, every car, everything. In one hit. That was enough to buy the Formula 500.
Wow.
So I'm still at initially $4,500.
Yeah. So you really haven't spent too much money.
No.
You're already gone
I did the
through
one
pretty
way.
much two lots of car racing.
Yes.
Ones that people would think you spend a lot of money on. You look at anybody at a circuit racing in dirt, and you look at any car, you think, he's spending big bucks. You look at a Formula 500, you think, they're spending big bucks. They must have some big sponsors because it's going to be quite costly.
Yeah.
But you've kind of done it as a budget racer. You know, much like a club racer goes to a kart race meeting with their single 3x3, spanner, dad, on the tools, karts on the deck, away you go. You've kind of done that.
was us.
But you're now into Formula 500s doing it.
But I had a lot of people in the background. When I say a lot of people, Michael Harders, I had Matt Black. Now, they all with supercars and stuff like that. So when I progressed to it, I had their help in the garage for 6 months. Cost me a lot of drink, a lot of firewood.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 weeks we did it. To get it ready. But I've always been different. When I say different, everyone runs R6s. I ran the GSX-R
GSX-R6,
because I love Suzuki's.
Yeah.
I then,
But they're much of a muchness. You know, you look at that, and the ZX6R, they're a similar kind of motor, maybe a different power delivery, you can say, but in a car, that power delivery would just be down to a preference on the driver, wouldn't it? Whether he likes that grunt, that torque, or that high speed, high revving engine, which I think the R6s are. They're a high rever.
the R6 is, they reached 16,000 RPM.
Yeah.
The best we could get was 15.8 out of the Suzuki.
Yeah.
But, you know, we also bought, I had to put a little bit of money into it. It's not just, but, you know, you buy stuff as you, I put a dual fuel injection system, become a weapon then.
Yeah.
And he did really average, really. He was sort of mid-pack. And I'm thinking, oh my God, it's just like watching the mod lights.
Yeah.
You know, and these things are methanol driven.
Yeah.
These things should just go. And I could see this car's got so much more.
Yeah.
And basically what happened was Mum went into hospital, my wife, Carlo's mum, and Carlo's my son, by the way. And she said something to him, I don't know what it was, I think it was go out and win tonight or something. So we went to Bundaberg on one of the races. Not only did he win, he won 4 straight that night. He then won 8 consecutive races after that. And I'm like, people thought...
Tell me then, right, you're now into a car that you really, really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's super fast. Technically, though, surely it's got an awful lot more to it. You've got wings now, and you've got setups. You've got tyre pressures, toe into it, whatever you do on a sprint car. Tell me how you transferred from go-karts to a car, knowledge that you get in the track and feel for the car, feel for the drive, understeer, rear end, stepping out, whatever it is. How do you feed that back to a technical change that Sam's got to make to a completely different car again? How do you feed that knowledge back? What did you do?
To be honest with you, it just clicked that night.
So it just went?
Everything just came together. Everything just gelled the way, like the team gelled.
Yeah.
the best way to explain it was, just everything
No women there.
just happened.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
But
watch the video.
again, you're up against obviously 10 other cars at least
Yeah.
on circuit
Yeah.
who are doing the same thing, and some of them will be very experienced drivers.
Yeah.
You've now got to battle race with them door to door. And what I've seen on TV and what I've seen when I go to Archfield and I go to Toowoomba, there's a minute amount of time to make an alteration or
Split
something
second.
where someone's had a mistake or coming at you, where you're so on the limit on these things.
Yeah.
So how do you go from karts to that and still be in control and bloody well win?
I wouldn't even say it's in control. Like, as
So
I
it's
said
kinda- so
before,
you've got to be a bit loose.
it's in control, out of control.
Yeah, so you've got to be like proper loose.
The harder you drive it, the easier it was to drive.
Yeah, that's something. What I've noticed with some of the tracks, they grade them. They're trying to get them as good as they can. Sometimes they're not the best surface. You get a bit come out, and there's a wheel stands coming everywhere because of a lump comes out of it. But is it the case? The faster you go, it's always going to be smoother on the circuit. And then when it gets up top and the shale rises to the top, you get on the curtain, as they call it, faster around there as well. You learn when that's faster. You do a lap or two up on the top to see if it's faster, and then if it's not, you come back down. What do you do?
You just got to guess. It's just a massive guessing game.
So if you get up there and you're overtaken, it worked.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
Until somebody else susses out they can do it, and then you're
Then you've got to race again.
Yeah.
People, they also need to learn that the wings do a lot of work.
Yeah.
So the faster you go, the better the wings work.
Yeah.
And then you also, you set them up higher to get
Much
people-
like downforce on a Formula One car.
yes.
You need the downforce to stick it to the track
Sometimes you've got
so
to
you can
release
go faster.
it, because you're gripping too much.
Yeah. All right.
So,
that technical aspect of it, you've got to feed to him. He's got to feed back to you. Was there much money involved in getting all the things that you needed to run a Formula 500 and run it fast? Because sometimes there's going to be an accident. You're going to hit somebody.
Yeah.
There's going to be parts you need to change. That can be, I guess, relatively costly. But in general, running the thing of a night time, it's not. It's just a set of tyres every couple of race meets.
yeah,
isn't
it was
it?
actually cheaper than the go-karts.
Yeah.
So running one formula with methanol and all that was actually cheaper per night to run than the go-karts.
Yeah.
You learn very quickly how tyres burn up and what you need to do to save them as well. There's a lot of teams out there that don't care about burning, but I'm on a budget. Everything's about burning. He can go out with a set of tyres and didn't even take off a nipple.
Right.
I must have had it set
Because they do say some tracks are more abrasive than others, don't they?
Marlboro's very
every
Because of what
surface
it's
is
got
different,
into.
so-
Yeah, I was going to say some of it just clay, some of them mix a certain soil in there. It's a different setup, and then obviously rubber lays down on it, and it gets faster
Yeah.
over the night. But it can still be abrasive because of what's underneath and what's been graded into it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Because
So-
the one in Sydney's just been changed, hasn't it? They've just changed that surface completely.
I don't know.
I believe they have. Yeah. One of the guys from Retro,
Yeah.
I think, is running that, and they're now running races there. So
Yeah.
they're going to get it running very soon and get it up and running properly. Good news.
good.
That'd be cool. Right, now, I'm going to stop you there because you've had a lot of success with Formula 500, been great fun, but the dream and what this show is all about is karts to cars. Well, it's not just karts to cars to you, it's cars, karts, cars. Now, I mean, we're talking next level. You've gone to a sprint car. Now, there's a little story to this. You surprise him. So he's going really well in the Formula 500, looking like he's going to win even more.
Yep.
You kind of take it from underneath
I
him
did.
and give him a bloody LS1. So we're talking full-blown sprint car now, which I'm sure he's going to wet his pants when he sees this thing sat on the yard. So tell us what happened first of all, and then we'll ask him what it's like to drive it.
So basically, he was winning, and we just picked up a new sponsor, which was Allstate. He jumped on board on probably the second last race of the formulas, and I just had a chat to him, and I said, I found a sprint car. And he goes, oh, yeah? I said, I'm thinking about buying it. What do you reckon? And he goes, well, how much you need? And we sort of chatted, and I said, well, it depends on how much I get for this car, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, you know what? Let's do it. So I sort of just put out the word that the car's for sale, never advertised it, nothing like that. A bloke approached me, offered me enough money to buy the sprint car.
Wow.
Outright.
All right, and he didn't know this yet.
He didn't know.
right,
time.
go, continue.
Another time.
So we bought this sprint car, and it was taking its sweet time getting down. I couldn't get it fast enough. Like it's 6 weeks gone past, it hasn't come down. And even I started panicking because there was a lot of money, involved. And anyway, it finally turned up, come off the back. I took him to the yard to pick it up, and he goes, "What's this?" And there it rolls
There
out.
you go, there's your sprint car.
And that's how it sort of happened. But it wouldn't have happened without that one sponsor
Yeah.
saying, let's do it.
Yeah.
Because
And that was
Allstate.
Allstate, right? Cool. Thanks, Allstate. Got
Yeah,
on board.
bloody oath.
Tell me, mate. You've been presented now with you've gone from a little one to a big one. That's what I told them.
Yeah,
'Cause I think,
yeah, basically.
I still think I would really enjoy a Formula 5 one. I think the noise is unreal, and I think the speed of a LS1 364. I think that'd scare me. I think I'd be, oh no, this is. I think it'd be for me be too dangerous. I'd probably shit myself. I would. so you've seen this thing on the drive.
Yeah.
You're looking, oh, where's my 600 gone? And now you got this beast. Are you like, wow, I can't wait, or, oh, God, I hope I can drive it? What were you feeling?
Yeah, it was pretty much that. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
more nervous to break it.
Yeah. Well, you would be.
Again, I was starting again from scratch.
Yeah.
I was trying, and then I had to learn how to
So
control
where-
the car,
Yeah.
control the acceleration,
Yeah.
use the wings again.
Yeah. So
And
where was the first track you drove it on?
first track we drove it at was Archfield.
On a practice night?
Practice
so
night.
no racing, just a practice night?
just a practice
So
night.
how was the very first... So talk me through the first 2 laps where you're thinking, right, at what point do I put this down and get the rear end out? Did you do it straight away, or did you do 10 laps and then start to give it some...
So basically, I was pre-warned. Matty Black had a chat to me a couple of nights before that and just said, look, give it a go, give half throttle.
Mate.
Yeah,
He said, go half throttle. When you go down the straights, 3/4.
yeah,
Corners, go about halfway, but don't go outside of your experience.
yeah.
At the end of the day,
Yeah.
just do what you can
Yeah.
and just progress.
Just on that, I've seen a few inside, and people watching maybe don't realise, because a lot of people watching this show might well be thinking about karts to V8s and Formula One and circuit racing. But in a sprint car, it's like driving a tractor in it. The steering wheel is like this.
Yeah.
That must be really bizarre, but you have to in order to control what
Yeah.
you've got to do. Because like on this seat now, to do that, I'm naturally doing this. So that's exactly how you drive these things.
It's exactly
You've
how
got to
it
do
feels.
that, and you steer, and you've. So what he's talking about, Matty Black, thanks, Matty Black, throttle control to get that to step out, so you can do that and drive it hard around a corner. How hard was that to learn in something with so much power?
Very, very hard.
Yep.
It took quite a few laps,
Yeah.
and then, as I said, one thing after another, it just clicked.
Yeah. And once you got it, you've got it, and that was
Yeah.
Because you've
Just
won.
start getting
I think
fast.
there's a feature win you've got in the sprint car already.
We've had no, not a feature.
No, it wasn't a feature win, there were heat wins.
Heat win, right? So heat wins already, and you're not been. How long have you been driving the sprint car?
This is our second full season.
So only 2. So you've only done the season and a half.
So basically, we won the 2 in the first season.
Yeah.
I never expected it in the world. The first race, he won by 0.008 of a second, which is fair. I still remember running down the pits because I couldn't see the board. Short ass, obviously.
Yeah.
Couldn't see the board, so I ran halfway down the pits to see that I won. That he won. I ran all the way back. I didn't have tears, but I tell you what, I was choked up.
I bet, yeah.
And
That was against Dan Mose.
that was
Yeah,
against
right.
Dan Mose. He was
Okay.
a very good driver.
Yeah.
So that was our first one. And then on the very last night of Archerfield, we got the last heat win on heat 3.
Yep.
And not did we win by a margin, we won convincingly by probably
3/4 of a lap.
not 3/4, but half a lap.
Okay.
Like nothing could catch him.
So, sprint car, you've moved up to an LS1.
Yeah.
Is there a much difference expense-wise to run this car compared to the Formula 500?
Extremely.
Yep.
Extremely more, lot more. And without the sponsors, we couldn't.
So
do it.
this really does something.
Yeah.
This is something where you progress to this level. You're now knocking on the door of as many sponsors as you get. Who are your sponsors? Who are backing you for the 2024
Our
season?
major one is Allstate.
Yep.
HRX supplies us with a lot of stuff. Just recently, we got Onshore Oils,
That's my company, by the way.
which is fantastic because we service the car every two races. That's nearly $100 worth of oil
Yeah.
and all that
Yeah.
every time we do it. You don't have to, but if you want to save the engine, you have to.
Yeah,
Methanol. Compared to the Formula 500, we could run a 44-gallon drum
Yeah.
for the whole night, for the whole season.
Yeah.
In sprint cars, you get 2.5 nights.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
it's the most expensive fuel. It's nearly probably 4 litres to the K.
Yeah. So what's the dream? What's the next step? What, if you're going to another whole season with this one? Have you got
look,
progression plans after this, or just dreams?
To be honest with you, we don't really, we haven't really spoken about like if we'll go to like say 410s
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, but like it's just the pro sprint LS 360 community.
Yeah.
Just everyone's just it's fair. It's everyone's the same across the board. It's just like a family, really.
Cool. All right.
Look, the
pretty much
LS
one way to say
the
it.
LS is a great. With our class, we've got LS 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Created 525, which is an LS 3 anyway. there's about 200 horsepower between
Yeah.
bottom to top,
Yeah.
roughly. So it's sort of, and we're all restricted to 7,000 RPM, so
Yeah.
it makes it a little bit more of a
Yeah.
driver's race rather than our race.
Okay.
When you talk about 410s, you look at the likes of Brody Davis, he's in a graded 525, he's had a couple of podiums
Yeah.
against the 410s. It
Yeah.
all comes down to the track
Yeah.
and the driver and your setup, of course.
Well, listen, guys, it's been really good talking to you. I'm going to call the show off there because we're going to do 30-minute episodes. So
Yep.
thanks very much for coming in and giving us your story. It's a really interesting story. We wish you all the best for 2024. If you want to get on board, you know where they are. The boys will
Always
be at the
looking for
circuit.
sponsors.
Always looking, so really good. If you like the show, please subscribe and follow, and there'll be one hopefully every week. We'll get more of these together. From Carts to Cars, I am Kev the Noise Davis, signing out. Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again very soon. Well done. Thank you.